Hey folks, welcome to Monday afternoon Q&A. Hey Prasath, Kai, welcome back. Bruce, Thomas, Christopher Ryan. I'd say Christopher Ryan because we got a couple Christophers on here. Lawrence, Yan, William, Prasath, and Jim. How are you guys all doing? Is everybody doing good? Ooh, Lawrence is going to start 3D printing his stuff from SketchUp. That'll be fun. You can hang out with Jody. Jody 3D prints stuff from SketchUp too.
Well, yeah, I try. Sometimes I try. Actually, I was just talking about this new thing that I have to try called instant meshes. Has anybody used this thing? Turning stuff into meshes? It's not SketchUp related. Nobody? Oh wait, you guys.
Well, you got to give it a second. Hornock's already spotted the chess clock. Francis, we are running SketchUp 2020. In fact, 2020.1 right now. Yeah, I should actually point out that my chess clock is telling me that it is over 75 in the garage this morning, this afternoon.
Ooh, so me in the basement, it's the cold guy, and you're going to be warm.
It's toasty, yeah. So shoes are coming off.
I just put my slippers on, and I've encouraged my dog to curl up on my feet.
Good boy.
I'm not sure how cold it is down here, though.
Yeah, alas.
Wait, bayonet. What's this bayonet business? What's going on here? You have a bayonet back there?
Me?
Yeah, Kai wants to know if there's a bayonet for your mouse.
Like a blade you put on it and then poke people with it?
I guess if you're charging into battle.
Oh, no, it's a chunk of metal I use to keep the book open.
Chunk of metal. Everybody needs a chunk of metal just sitting on their desk.
Hey, Dave.
You wouldn't understand.
I know, Andy. I complain about whatever weather I happen to be going through at the time. It's my right as an American, I'm pretty sure. So.
I heard the grass is greener outside of your garage too.
Well, not if it's in the high 80s. It's going to turn brown pretty quick. Hey guys, welcome to SketchUp Live. This is our Monday version of SketchUp Live where we do a Q&A session. So we encourage you to ask your questions and then we will try our best to answer them. Questions about SketchUp, ideally. I know I've already had some questions. What's that? Sorry.
Brought to you by the letter Q.
That's right.
For question.
And quick. And those are the only keywords I know.
Quixotic.
So I did, as per usual, I did start a forum topic for this Q&A session. So if there's specific models you have questions on, you can load them there and I can grab them and open them up. I don't know that we'll use it. We don't use it too much for Q&A so much as the other things where people post reference images, that sort of thing. Oh yeah, and Q is for rotate. That's right.
Oh, wait.
Good catch, Dave.
Dang it, I should use that.
And I do want to do another plug, or I don't know if it's a plug, notification, reminder. A reminder that we are still doing our Finish This House challenge. So you can hop on the forum, you can download this empty house shape and use SketchUp to make it your own structure. Last Friday, we got Jono on the phone. He was one of the first people to submit and talk about how he had turned the building sideways and stuck it into a cliff wall, made kind of a unique structure. So we're going to be highlighting somebody again soon. I don't know if it'll be this Friday or if it'll be next Friday. Maybe every 2 weeks. That sounds like reasonable. But it's always a good time to get your entry in. So head on up and read about that on our forum.
I don't think we have anybody that only shows up on Monday, right? But we're not going to be here next Monday, I don't think.
That is true.
If I remember correctly.
That is, yeah, a holiday. So I won't be here. I can say with authority, I will not be here. Not that I don't want to be here. Jody and I are being told we can't work, right? Something like that. Does that sound real?
Stop working.
Don't you dare do any work on Monday. All right.
Sometimes these early questions, I don't know if these are rhetorical or tongue-in-cheek. Thomas wants to know about adding rain and weather. That'd be kind of awesome, I guess.
It is a thing you can
Sorry.
do. I don't have anything prepared for it, but what I've done in the past. So fog, obviously, fog emulates a fog, and I know you're kind of joking, but watermarks, which we all know, I like talking about watermarks, but watermarks can actually
That's what
be
you get when it
used.
rains.
That's right, to take a transparent line texture. So if you had a texture of like line at like 30 degrees from vertical, white lines, you can actually, if you have that as a PNG and semi-transparent, you can actually put that over the front and emulate like rainfall. So it is possible. You can actually do that. So yeah, I'll teach you to make a joke about fog.
All right, I'm typing. I missed the funniness of that. Sorry.
Oh, I laugh at myself. I don't actually know if it's funny or not.
Well, yeah, usually we all laugh at you, near you.
I'll take what I can get.
All right.
Erica
Just,
is asking about videos. Just want to say Erica is asking on Facebook where you can get to videos. The best place to watch our videos is on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and search for SketchUp. We should be the top result because we're the official SketchUp channel. And if you click through there, you will find hundreds of SketchUp videos. So
That's why I was typing and not listening to you.
oh, yeah, there you go. Or just follow his link.
Don't follow that one because I pasted it right next to a word and it's not going to work. Now it'll work.
Second tries a charm. There we go.
What do we got going on in here, question-wise? Lawrence is asking, why is he... Okay, so he has a question. Take a face, draw a rectangle on it, add a texture to the rectangle. What happens for you?
There's my face.
That was
Draw a
not a question.
rectangle.
That is a question.
Put something on it. I'm assuming when you're saying textures, you want to see something like this. I feel like that was a pretty basic thing, but I did it. The texture goes on the rectangle. I'm not sure if you meant the other piece, but that's what I get.
All right, that's something. Now we'll just wait with bated breath.
Welcome back, Don. Don was in Vancouver and he came back.
How are things in Vancouver? Isn't it always rainy up there? It's like Canadian Seattle.
Thomas was asking about adding.
He was the one that asked about weather. Lighting, not lightning. Oh, maybe he meant lightning. Ooh.
Yeah, so SketchUp doesn't do actual lighting. If you want to emulate a field of view by lighting, that's where fog comes into play. Fog doesn't have to be fog. I mean, I don't have to just use fog for foggy colors where stuff disappears into the fog in the distance. If I want to, I can actually change my color from the background color to, if this is a night, I could turn to black and then actually use my distance. So here I can say how far is my visibility, and that's how I could actually use fog to create a field of view at night. By everything that's further than a certain distance away from the camera disappears into the darkness. It's called fog because a lot of times you use that same color as your background, and what's far away from the camera is less important, so it kind of disappears in the background. But it can be used to create night light, a lack of light in the night.
Sure.
Night
or lack of light
non-light.
in the day.
That's the one.
Oh. All right, the questions are coming in. Inside Murda blog wants to know if you can create a 3-storied building in SketchUp 2012. SketchUp 2012. Ooh.
I don't think that's
Might be time to upgrade, man.
That's not a thing, isn't 20? Didn't it go from 8 to 13?
Oh, it did. Oh,
So
that's a
no,
trick
the
question.
answer is no.
Nice.
You can't. You cannot do
Got to
that.
get in there.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing in SketchUp that says you can't do something more than a certain height or a number of pieces. SketchUp isn't a structural analysis software, so it's not going to go in and say can only have so many load paths or stories or anything like that. You can draw whatever you want, as many
Do you?
stories as you
You do
like.
you.
Yeah, that's right. You do your thing. We're not going to stop you.
All right. Kai's looking for tips to avoid or recover from the flick, in quotes. This is a new word for me in SketchUp. When you zoom into a model and suddenly the view flicks out to a very long way off. I don't know what he's doing. Not sure if I can relate.
Yeah, I would love to help you with that, but I don't understand that either. If it's possible, Kai, if you can screen cap that, if you can run a something like lice cap or something to catch your screen and show what it is that's happening. I'm trying to picture my zoom jumping to a long way off. I don't think I've done that. I mean, I've done the thing where I'm zooming in, zooming in, zooming in, zooming in, and I just scroll my wheel real hard and I pop through the other side and start zooming in on nothing. And now all of a sudden I'm way far underneath everything I was zooming at before. But I can't think of what else that would. Yeah, I don't know. If you can get an example of it up on our forum, you can put it into the topic I already started, and then we'll take a look at it. Or if you want to start your own topic, then you'll definitely get people hop on and help with that, for sure.
Because people like to talk on the forum.
They do. Well, that's why it's there.
You know how people talk.
I would say it's one of the primary forms of our communication. Talking.
Oh wait, Lawrence clarified his put a texture on that that rectangle inside the rectangle. He wanted you to import a file to put it onto. I don't know why that would be different off the top of my head.
I don't either.
Let's see what happens.
Let's make a custom picture. Photograph. All right. And I'm gonna come in here, and I'm just gonna fill everything back to white. All right, I'm going to go File, Import from my desktop. This image I just created, import it as a texture. Ooh, it jumps in to put it on the outside piece.
Ooh, all right.
But then I can sample it and put it in there on the inside piece too. Huh. That was fun. I wonder if that's because I had reversed faces? I don't know. What that?
I don't know. Looks like a glitch.
Oh, I know why. I think. Hold on. Let me try something again. If you click on an edge like this, I think it's going to see that corner as being a part of this surface rather than this surface. So if you want to keep your texture just inside the inside surface, make sure your placement point and your scaling point are inside the texture. If you come out to the edges like that, it's going to cause an issue. You can always, once it's placed, right click, texture, position, and then rescale it so it fills the whole thing. But your initial clicks need to be inside that first piece. So I'm guessing if you were getting what I was just getting, that's the reason for it, is because I was clicking on this corner, and that corner is shared between this texture and this texture. I don't know what the decision making is, if it's the bigger texture wins or what, but that's what happened. So, yeah.
Seems pretty good to me.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I haven't run into this yet, but Joka is wondering if there's an issue with scaling materials and textures since the update.
I just did it.
Yeah.
So I mean I do that.
Short answer is
pretty regularly, and I think I've done it every time we've had one of these Q&A sessions, but I don't think I have seen anything that's been weird since the update now.
so while you're playing with textures, Jorgen Facebook actually wants to know if you can change the orientation of textures, like wood lines in 90 degrees.
You sure can. What you're going to want to do is have your texture applied. That's what you do first. It has to be in SketchUp. And then pick on just the textured face. Don't double click. You don't want to get the edges. You don't want to do a select all. Just a single face selected. You verify that by having entity info up. It should say face. Then you can right click and you'll get this texture option. Under texture, just click position. And in position, you'll get one of two sets of pins. You'll either get these colorful pins or you'll get these fixed pins, which are little white squares. If you get the little white squares, just right click and click where it says fixed pins. It'll get you back to the colorful ones. With the colorful ones, what you want to look at is the green handle right here. The green handle will allow you to rotate this to 90 degrees. And if you click on the green handle and pull it straight, it'll allow you to scale. So that would be how you would do that.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, Renish is wanting to know how to unblock the extension warehouse. I think Dave's already clarified that you need to be, he's on SketchUp 2016. So it's probably worth mentioning that stuff's changed about the warehouse over the years.
Yeah, you do have to be logged in to get into the warehouse.
And older versions don't support it anymore.
That's right. Yeah.
Browser support.
Yeah, because we've had to keep updating. So if you're running a 6-year, 5-year-old, I forgot what version you said.
I think, so Dave already said 2017 is what you need.
Right,
so
at least 2017. Unfortunately,
it doesn't work in 2016.
As much as we would like to keep supporting, as technology moves forward, it's real hard for us. It would mean like not advancing warehouses to keep supporting all older versions. So we do our best, but we usually support like 3 versions back. If newer stuff, it's harder to keep supporting that old stuff forever.
Okay, so here's a good one. Is it reliable to design a house according to the shift of the sun in SketchUp? Which is, I guess, another way of saying how accurate is our sun shading, solar shading.
Well, I don't know how to answer a question like how accurate. It's
accurate.
It's good.
You could say that.
Yeah, I mean it's accurate. I mean it's going to get you the information you need to do basics of designing for sunfall. People use it for solar panel layouts, for optimizing orientation of buildings. So I mean it is accurate. It's not design specific. We don't have specific tools in it to say optimize if you angled it this way you'll get so many more hours inside of SketchUp. That is something that's available in Sapphira, which is an extension on top of SketchUp that will actually do daylight analysis and find your warm zones and your cool zones and that kind of thing. Yeah, what's there for the default with geolocation and the sun emulation based on location, time, and date is, yeah, it's accurate. I guess I don't know how to quantify that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's accurate enough that Sapphira uses. Are they relying on our solar data?
Yeah, they use our solar data to do their analysis, as far as I know, or location information. Yeah.
Oh, Brad's staying with the textures topic.
All right.
Wants to know if you can have a default wood texture predefined for a component, but be able to change the texture on specific instances.
Yeah, I mean, you can change anything whenever you want. So, I mean, I'm sorry, that sounded glib. It was not meant to be glib.
I'm sure that what he means is as soon as you change the texture, it changes it on all of them.
Yeah, if you have, so if I have, here, let's make this into a thing. Here's a thing. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to make it into a component. If I move that component, make a copy of it, if I come in here and I start coloring this and I color this red, yes, other copies are going to get that same thing. If I don't want that to be the case, I just want this one to be individually a different color, I can right click and I can say make unique. This is now a different component, so I could come into this and apply different materials. That's the basic answer. To take that just one step further, though, if I wanted these to have the same component instance because I'm reporting on it or something like that, you could go a little bit further and make a dynamic component where you could actually set this instance properties and have a dynamic component and have your colors loaded and be able to switch through it in a UI. That would be possible. That'd be a little more work than we won't actually dive deep into that in the Q&A, but that would be possible. If you look on our YouTube channel, we do have a recently, I think it's the end of last year, maybe it's this year, I don't remember. Time flies. Time's weird. Time doesn't run the way it used to. It's odd.
It's speeding up.
And slowing down at the same time. But I did a series on dynamic components, and one of the first ones we did, we changed a couple colors and made options and drop downs. So you might be able to check those videos out if you don't know about dynamic components and try that out, where you could actually load different wood textures into a component ahead of time and switch between them with UI. That would be an option also. Like I said, that would be the advanced option.
I'll just grab that and post it.
Jody's got it.
So Nathan said that he also had problems with the Zoom thing like Kai was running into. Myron is trying to bring in a large IFC model. He's wanting to know, he's like, when he explodes it, he says it eats up a huge amount of RAM. He's tried everything. You have any tips for handling big IFC files?
Bring them in smaller groups. And again, saying I'm bringing in an IFC file, unfortunately, could mean a lot of things because depending on where the IFC file actually came from, the amount of data in it might be enormous. So if at all possible, anytime if you have the ability to do it, try to export in multiple files. So if you're pulling in multiple different classifications, maybe break down your exports to just certain pieces or only import certain chunks at a time and see if that helps. If you are bringing it in from the same file, they should, once they come in, even if they come in piecemeal, they should realign once they get in. But it could be something like that. Like I said, it's kind of hard to say, my suitcase is heavy. What do I do about it? Well, it depends what's in it. So that
take stuff out.
Yeah, exactly. Take some stuff out and it'll make your suitcase lighter. So that would be my recommendation if that's possible. If you actually get that file from somebody else, then you might want to reach out to them and ask them to strip it down for you. I have seen a lot of problems with files that cross over from certain specific softwares that they're just super, super heavy files. So even CAD files. I mean, we hear all the time, I have a DXF file that's several meg. It's an enormous DXF file, but it's because it has absolutely everything. And if all you're concerned with is drawing the walls from that DXF file, then you don't have to import all that other stuff. So same thing with IFC.
So Hornox was wondering about changing the model order in 3D Warehouse by dragging things around. I don't think there's much of a drag and drop kind of option in the 3D Warehouse, right? Whenever he's browsing it, he wants to be able to change the order of stuff.
Like in your own personal warehouse, I believe it's just by date.
Yeah.
I would have to verify that, but I'm fairly certain that 3D Warehouse just shows what's in your 3D Warehouse. I think it's all sorted by date. I don't know if there's an option to change that.
Fortunately, these first 20 minutes is me trying to scroll through old questions as more and more answers and questions come in.
And usually by now Jody asks to put an @SketchUp at the beginning so it's easier for him to find questions.
And it seems like half the people are doing pretty good. It looks like there's a whole conversation happening with David and a couple other guys that are using old versions of SketchUp. So I don't know that we've got much to say there other than what we already said. If you got questions, stick your @SketchUp at the beginning and start asking them, and I'll repeat them. Man, that is just full of questions from Smit Shah about all kinds of different. I think you're looking for maybe for tech support, Smit, in which case you might actually want to go to the forum and ask questions there, unless you paid for Pro, and then you can contact support. Tamario's wondering which version of SketchUp you're using.
This is
They're also asking about your hardware and stuff, so maybe you can just tell them
sure.
about.
So this is 2020.1, so most recent version. It's the release version. That's kind of all we ever try to show is whatever the most recent version is. I'm not running anything super crazy. This is my system right now. I'm running on Mojave, 2.9 gigahertz Intel, 16 gigs of memory, and just the standard MacBook graphics card. So not looking at a crazy nuts system. I don't really render. I don't do a lot of analysis. Most of what I do is recording, editing videos, and running SketchUp, and this is what I use. So try to keep it simple.
So this is a callback. Nathan said that municipalities like Boulder won't accept SketchUp models for solar shading. You still have to have an actual shading analysis done. So I suppose there's the difference. Is it's accurate enough for you to eyeball stuff, but you still need to go through the formal process for permits.
That makes sense. Yeah, I guess maybe that's how you quantify. Is it good enough to submit? And apparently not in Boulder. Thanks, Nate.
Yep. You should check with your local municipality. They'll know. Right. Noor wants to make bump maps for SketchUp.
SketchUp does not
what's a way to do that?
Support bump maps.
That was easy.
So yeah, SketchUp doesn't do any kind of rendering. So things like bump maps or lighting or anything like that is unfortunately just something that we don't get into. We try to focus on the creation of 3D models, and the rest of that stuff is where you get into other software, rendering software or other visualization software.
Sebastian's asking if Trimble has an opinion on the latest Unreal Engine stuff. I don't think I've heard Trimble have an opinion. I have an opinion.
I think it's awesome. Jody and I watched that PS4 video, and just I think we talked about that for like 20 minutes, something like that. Just
yeah. It feels like it was a demo that was elicited a lot of emoji responses. There were not words. You just had to
jaws dropped, big eyes.
Yeah.
Actually, we have I don't know, relationship, but we know some guys at Unreal, and we like what they do, and it's awesome. It's fun to personally. I think it's really cool software, but I don't know that we have an official response to it, other than
I don't think SketchUp's going to be creating models with 20 billion polygons anytime soon.
Odds are against it.
How would you make a basic organic looking stone? It feels like the answer to that one is so could you do it manually, or would you need to use an extension? Tommy's asking on Facebook.
It really depends on what you want to get out of a stone, because you can always go in and just naturally start moving shapes around, and use autofold to start breaking up geometry, force it into different directions, but it's really, it really just depends on what you hope to get out of it, because you can use just native tools to create whatever kind of messy geometry you want. Stones in particular, I mean, if you look at a stone and think about the mesh that creates it, it's messy. There's a lot in there. So what I would recommend, I'm going to orient faces, is checking out the extension Erode from Enerot. I can't remember if I have that.
You probably did at one point.
I know I did at one point. I had to do I had to remove some extensions that I wasn't using because I had so many. But what Erode will do is it'll take basic geometry and run. It's almost like a subdivision engine. It'll go through and take each piece and chop it into smaller pieces and start shifting points, and you can actually control the amount of erosion. So do I want this to be a big spiky mess, or do I just want to subtly kind of crackle it down? But I would check out Erode if you're trying to model rocks. It's what we used on when we did the the Hobbit hole and we did the stone steps leading up to the door, we actually started with just rectangular type shapes and then used a road to go in and add bumps to it so it looked like some sort of stone. And then to add to that, a good texture will go a long way with stone.
Yeah, just look at games. Games get a lot. You can accomplish a lot with good non-bump
right.
map textures in SketchUp. Shirt. There is the Kai's wanting to know what the shirt is today.
Oh, this is the shirt I got from the Escape game, the company. There's actually a logo on the back, but right there. We did a video just recently, a built-in SketchUp video, where we talked about how Nashville-based Escape game, they create escape rooms, and they have like escape room stores where you go in and you go to them, and they just have just amazing designs and amazing rooms. Very, very cool, but this is the shirt I got from them. So if you haven't watched that, it's a good video.
You escaped from an escape room and all you got was that shirt?
Hey, normally they charge for it. I felt kind of special.
Oh, yeah, okay. I definitely heard you're special. All right, Lawrence wants to know if you could show how position camera, walk, and look around, and angle of view all work.
Let's do that.
I would say those are all sort of underutilized or...
Yeah, and I'm gonna make a note because those would make some nice little videos. All right, so if I go to camera, I have this option of position camera, walk, look around. So if I hit position camera, I can click on a point, click and release, and it'll drop me on that point. It does a couple things once it drops me. First thing is it sets my eye height. The default is 5'6". I'm taller than that, so I'm gonna go in here and say 6'2", and you'll see it raises that camera up ever so slightly. The other thing it does is it gives me this eyeball cursor, and when I click and drag on the eyeball, it turns my view. So if I look around like this, as I click and drag, I'm moving. The other thing I can do with that is I can actually go to camera, position camera, and I can click from a specific location like Laura's face, and I can click in a direction, and that's going to put me right at that height looking in that direction. So if you have a specific spot that you want to place a camera, don't just drop it on the ground. Drop it on the ground is going to pull you up to a specific height from there, but if you click on a point and drag a line, it'll assume you have a camera right there looking in that specific direction. So whether I drop a camera or I click and drag, I still end up with the cursor with that eyeball shape there. So that's place camera. The other things that kind of work in there is walk and look around. So I'm in look around right now. If I click on walk, so if I click and drag now, I'll actually move forward. So it's kind of nice because I can kind of move, I can just hold it down and walk through an entire model just by clicking and dragging this cursor. And the other thing this does is this keeps you at the exact same eye height. So this is a great way to navigate architectural buildings and that kind of thing because it's going to keep you, if you look at eye height right here, no matter what I do, I'm always 5, 1, and 13/16, which is approximately how high Laura's eyes are off the ground as I move through here. The other question here was field of view. Is that the other thing you asked about?
Or angle of view, yeah.
Oh.
Wait, I don't know if maybe they meant field of view.
I'm assuming field of view because we don't have an angle of view.
Yeah, I think what that meant.
Field of view has to do with how much screen or how much is shown on the screen. So I forget what the human field of view is, like 120 degrees or something is the end of our peripheral vision. Primarily it's in this 90 degree, but field of view starts, the default is 30 degrees. While in the field of view command, I can click and drag up and down and it will narrow or broaden that field of view. So this can get kind of crazy. It's like a crazy camera trick, you know, where they like on a dolly zoom in while moving back or vice versa. But that'll actually change what's visible on the screen and how it's shown. You can also come in here and type in field of view. So if I want a 15-degree field of view, I can type that in, get that. 35 is the default. 0 field of view is what I get when I go to my parallel projection. That's looking straight on with no no diminishing points at all. Everything is straightforward. So that's 0, which I don't like. I don't like that. So I like 35. I usually keep mine at 35. Occasionally, I'll change my field of view if I'm doing something like I want to get an interior view of something. I want to stand in the corner of a room and try to see most of the room. I'll position my camera in the corner and then use field of view to get as much of that room visible on the screen for that shot. So that's about the extent of my practical use of field of view.
Seems decent enough, I suppose.
Good question.
Okay, there's a couple of these that are like make a thing. So
all right, let's make a thing.
Let me just warn everybody, whenever he makes a thing, it means a long time before I get to ask the next question. So
I'll try to go fast. I'll limit myself.
So Game Tech on Twitch wanted to see the quickest way. That's the way to preface this. Quickest way to toss a hole through a triangle on the angle straight down.
Well, triangle's a 2D shape. You mean like a pyramid?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Let's assume pyramid.
I mean, you could say angled triangle. It only has
you
to be
could,
one face. It's just
but you didn't. That's why I asked.
Okay, I didn't. You're right. I'm sorry.
Yes, one could. So I'm going to draw a square on the ground and bisect it, and then I'm going to use move to grab the middle point vertically and pull that up like that, and that is a pyramid. Oops. Triple click. I'm just going to reverse my faces so white's facing out. There's two ways I can think of doing this. One is with intersect model. One is with solid tools. I'm going to triple click this, and I'm going to make it, no, actually I'm going to copy it first. I'm going to make a copy right here. This one I'm going to make a group. This one I'm not. I'm going to come over here and draw a circle on the ground and say that this is the size of the circle that I want to cut the hole out with. I'm going to grab that and make a copy and move it over here. This one I'm also going to make a group. All right, now I'm going to grab both of these and slide them into my pyramid. I'm going to say this is exactly where, I'm glossing over some of this stuff for the sake of speed, but I'm going to say this is where I want it to intersect. Now, with my standard intersect tools, what I want to do is take this piece right here and reverse it. I'm reversing it because when I cut through, I want this face to be left behind. What I mean by that is I'm just going to grab all of this right now, right click, intersect face with selection, and any place those cross each other, it cuts. Now I can come in here and delete my extra materials here, and one more here, and I have that hole going straight down. The other option is with solid tools. So I'm going to go here to View Tool Palettes and turn on Solid Tools, and I'm going to select this one, my circle, and I'm going to say subtract that from my pyramid, and there in one click I get that hole through it. So those would be my two thoughts about subtracting a hole straight down through a 3D triangle.
Those are two great ways to do it. So it's probably been answered because I saw Dave had a comment, but Jim Saki is wanting to, or he's commenting that whenever he does any ISO or perspective views in layout, his lines are all jagged. So the answer has already been make sure you're using hybrid or vector.
Yes.
I'm not sure there's much more beyond that.
That's it. That is the solution. That's an easy one.
While I'm scrolling here, it was asked a couple of times. I lost the original post. Model a tennis ball with the lines. So probably the tricky part there is how do you do the kind of those little curvy lines that go in a tennis ball or a baseball?
Yeah, there's a tool called, well, two things. There's specific geometry to those lines. I don't know what they are though. Because the two halves are exactly, they're two halves that nest together perfectly. So it's the exact same shape two times. I think there's probably a way to exactly position those, but I don't know what those numbers are. I would do something with Tools on Surface is an extension that will let you actually kind of draw lines on the surface of geometry. So my solution would be to do more investigation and actually find out what those proportions are of those nesting pieces, Or if all you're looking for is just a general shape, you could try Tools on Surface to draw the lines onto the tennis ball.
Right. Okay.
That's my thought.
So Doran Moore is wanting to know from Facebook is wanting to know when importing section elevation to DWG, is there a way to keep the layers in SketchUp in the DWG file? There's a little. I think what he's saying is when he exports to DWG from SketchUp, can he keep his layers as layers in the DWG? Or maybe he means the opposite of that when bringing a DWG into SketchUp.
Maybe.
So I suppose just talk about DWGs in SketchUp.
So if I go to export my model and I put on DWG, I do have options here. And I can choose which pieces I want to export, lines versus edges versus, you know, all the different pieces. And man, I have to double check on this because I'm trying to remember how, as far as I know, it uses tags as layers in the file it exports.
I think so. And that's actually, he looks like, as I'm scrolling, he did clarify and said export. So he must be going out of SketchUp.
Yeah, it should, as far as I know, your tags should show up as layers in your CAD file. That's what I think should happen. If I'm wrong, then please let me know.
I think that sounds right. All right. Brian on YouTube was wondering or asking, when dealing with copied quadrants, what's the best way to blend in the lines created with geometry? By quadrant, he means a rectangle, and using it to make the same reverse model on each corner. It's just soften, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're bringing
basically whenever you do a mirror flip, right? The place where your stuff merges.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if I had something like this, say I don't know, I'm trying to make this non-symmetrical or something. So if I took this and I wanted to make a copy of it over here, so I'll take this, bring it over here, or I'll just even flip along. When I bring these two together, depending on the face, so these pieces, you know, this is making an edge, so this edge has to be here. But back here, I could actually erase that because those faces are coplanar. Same with on the bottom. If I wanted this to all look smooth, then yeah, what Jody's saying is I could come in here with my erase tool and hold down my modifier key to soften these edges like this if I wanted that all to blend together. So something along those lines would be how you would do that.
Yeah, he didn't say it, and I realize I was just assuming that, but I got the impression he probably meant like he made a component and then he flipped it, and so the place where those two components meet up.
Right.
So there's edge lines.
Yeah, if they're, well, oh, okay, hold on, I think I got it now. So you're saying a component. So let me do that. So let me get rid of this. Yeah, let's talk about this. I'm going to make this into a grouper component. It really won't, well, I guess we can make it a component because that will be a little bit different. So if I was to take a copy of this, again, flip along the red, and I move this right here, and I want this to be, I can't erase this because of geometry. What I can do is I can come in here and I can shift erase, which will hide it. See, when I shift erase, it disappears like that. So when I come out of the group, it shows up connecting like that, even though these are two separate pieces, just by hiding that line. You may get a little bit of this though. Look right here, I see a little bit of a flicker of white right there? That's showing the face on the inside. So if I come in here and I edit this again, I'm going to go to View, Component Edit, Hide Similar Components. Because this completely overlaps, I can delete this face, and that will get rid of that flickering. And it'll look like it's a smooth transition, even those two separate pieces. Enerot actually has an extension too that automatically does that, but I can't remember what, merge face, I think it's called. I think it's called merge face. And what that'll do is it'll
Okay,
run
merge.
through selected groups and find any place that you have pieces like that and automatically go through and erase or hide those edge lines for you. So yeah, as we work through that question, I think that's what you're asking.
It takes a village. Sometimes it takes a village.
It does. Sometimes two.
Kevin was wondering if you made an Animal Crossing character mock in SketchUp for a stream. That's
I haven't.
I I don't. I bet you don't peg me as a an Animal Crossing guy.
My daughter's a big fan of Animal Crossing. I personally haven't gotten into it. That's not saying anything other than I haven't gone there yet. So
Yeah, and that's the basis on my assumption you're not is that you've never talked about it.
that's solid assumption.
And there's a lot of chitter chatter about 32-bit version of SketchUp and Windows.
Yeah.
That's not a thing anymore.
No, alas.
Balram is wanting to know more about purge commands. I only know of one purge command. He said, explain its technicality, when and where to use.
Let's talk about that. All right, so if I go into model info and then click on statistics, this screen, of course, shows me all the information about the current model, how many edges, faces, components, et cetera, are in this model. So here's the thing, is that just because something's in the model doesn't mean it's actually in use. SketchUp saves everything you use. So if you import a material and then delete it out again, that material is still in the model. You bring in a component, but then erase it from your screen, it's still in the model. So this is where purge comes into play. So I'm going to use Laura here for my example. So Laura has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like eight colors on her. And other than this red that I put on the box, none of these other colors are anywhere in the model. So if I come in here, so if I look at how many materials, there's 11 materials in this model right now. So other than Laura, I have white, I have this image I imported, and I have red. That's it. So there's only 3. So that means those other 8 are all in Laura. So if I erase Laura, it doesn't change how many materials are in this model. I still have 11. So if I go to my paint bucket, for example, colors in model, even though Laura's gone, all these pieces. And to take that a little bit further, give you another example, if I go to components and look at what's in the model, Laura's still there even though she's erased from my screen. So this is the difference between what's on screen, what's actually physically in your model, and what's saved in the file. So all this stuff is saved in the file. So what purge unused does is it runs through, and anything that is not being used actively in what's on your screen right now, this is tags, this is material, this is components, this is anything that is not actually being used will get dumped out. So let's watch a couple things. The 2 specifically are going to be components. I don't know if I can show both. I can't. They're just past each other. Let's watch materials. So materials is 11 right now. If I hit purge unused, watch what happens over here and what happens here. Purge unused. All right, materials dropped to 2, and Laura disappeared from my list. So that's what purge unused does. This is especially useful if you're a big fan of 3D Warehouse. 3D Warehouse is awesome, great stuff up there. But what people end up doing is they go in to 3D Warehouse from right here. They download a model. It's not what I need. Erase. Go back to 3D Warehouse, and they'll do that 5 or 6 times before they find the perfect chair. That's awesome. That's not a big deal. That's how it was designed. It's great. The problem is each of those chairs you rejected are still saved in your model. So while it doesn't slow down like animating or how fast everything draws to your screen because it's not on the screen, it is still part of your file. It makes your file bigger. So going up to Window, Model Info, Statistics, and hitting Purge Unused every once in a while is going to keep your model to just what's on the screen. That's a good question. That's a very good question.
That was a good answer. Very, very thorough. Sorry, scrolling again.
Yeah, no problem.
Should have been queued up. I decided to type out an answer rather than just ask you. So,
Oh,
my fault. Brad Meacham wants to know if you can change the layout template after the initial document creation. I don't think so. He's got a 20-page layout document, and now he wants a different template.
No. Save template creates a new template, so there's no way to you can change the properties of the file you currently have, but you can't change the template it's built on, because a template's basically a starting point. You know, it's like grabbing a piece of paper to draw on. I can't change what I drew on after I've started drawing, unfortunately. So no, you can't. You can create a new template for next time. You could go through, change your page properties and that kind of stuff in that model, but you wouldn't be able to make a new template or activate a new template.
I mean, luckily you can change everything about a template
Right.
in a model. You can change your paper size. You can you can turn stuff off and on. But yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
And of course, Dave already answered that. I see now. So
Of course.
How easy is it to import a SketchUp drawing into Google Earth?
Okay, here's the thing with Google Earth. You can download Google Earth and you can import a file, even a geolocated file, into a local version of Google Earth. You can't upload to the web Google Earth thing anymore. They don't allow it. So you can only do it on local, and it's that simple. It's file import. And I said if you've geolocated it, that data should come along too. But yeah, it's pretty simple. But the thing to remember about importing to Google Earth is you're only working off of your local instance of Google Earth. It does not allow uploads to the grand Google Earth. That can't happen anymore. They shut that off. Google did.
Thanks, Google. I've made it to the bottom of the list here. So if you got new questions, do an @SketchUp and put your question after it. But Christopher Ryan is asking about validity check. What are the results there? And if there's none, why do you get the message?
Huh? Oh.
There used to be a time where you had to manually do a validity check. It used to be called validity check rather than fix problems too.
I'm trying to remember where that is now. Is that under? That's not a model thing. That's
the
a
fix
preference.
problems. No, you were in the right spot. It's the fix problems at the bottom is the same thing as check validity.
Yeah.
So sometimes you'll have corrupt stuff that throws up it does it automatically on save.
Yeah.
So that's why sometimes people will see it without clicking it.
Yeah, I think the times that I've hit that is with either imports or if I'm drawing at some weird teeny tiny scale with lots of geometry. That's what I've hit.
Yeah, it's
I forgot what the question was.
It's good. Well, so it's mostly what is it or what are the results for? And if there is no purpose, then why does it do it?
Yeah, well, there was a version there where we were adding more data into components where I know it would say like invalid name or tag or something invalid would come up. But I think most of the times now it has to do with invalid geometry that I've seen.
Yeah.
And that's usually because I'm doing something that's causing it. I'm usually the problem.
Before we started doing it automatically, it used to be you'd get corrupt files. People didn't check. That used to be a process. Like, I don't know, almost 10 years ago, you had to make a point of regularly checking validity. Otherwise, your file would slowly become corrupt, and then one day, nothing.
Right. I know Brad asked a question about purge again. Does it get rid of hidden? Oh, okay. I wasn't sure. It was the next question in line, but I wasn't sure if you were assuming you got it covered. I didn't mean to do your job. I'm sorry, Jody.
Whatever, I'll just go drink some coffee in the corner.
No, if you have something hidden, so if I come in and hide this right now, if I go to purge, it's not going to get rid of that just because it's hidden. If I turn hidden objects, it'll still be there. It's just stuff that is not unused. Anything that is not anywhere in the screen, anywhere in the model. Those are the pieces that gets rid of, not hidden geometry. Hidden geometry is safe.
Ellis wants SketchUp to buy you a new laptop. That's pretty cool. I'm not quite sure what happened back whenever that was determined, but that's something.
Yeah, I think you saw that my laptop's a few years old.
Oh, that's sad. You have never modeled a TARDIS, right? We've been over the Doctor Who thing. You're not a...
Yeah.
Not a big Doctor Who fan, so.
I think I was looking at it. Oh, you know what? The very first time we did a live model, we did a poll of what we should model. It seems like the TARDIS was in there. It's like the DeLorean, the Millennium Falcon, the Hogwarts or the Great Hall. Maybe the TARDIS? I can't remember. At some point we polled people, and yeah, the TARDIS didn't win. So
Maybe it's time to repoll.
that
It
yeah.
seems like Doctor Who has lost kind of the buzz that it had, say, 5 years ago, though.
Yeah, it was definitely
Maybe.
buzzing for a while. Not so much now. It's not. I still hear people talk about it.
Brian Campbell's wondering if there's going to be a monthly subscription for SketchUp Pro. That's sort of like features. We can't talk about what's coming in the future.
Yeah, I know. I've heard people request that.
I'm sure it's being considered.
Yeah, unfortunately, Jody and I are while technically, if you look at an org chart, we fall under sales. We're about as far as you could be in sales, and still, like, nobody asks us about what we think about money or anything
Don't
along
ask
those
this guy.
lines. Like,
I'm going to give it away.
you guys just keep teaching people. So yeah, I don't know. I don't. We're not privy to those decisions. But like I said, I've heard people request it, and I know that we keep an eye on what people ask for on the forums. So it's possible.
Right, so here we go. Vincent has a 3/4 inch cabinet door with rounded corners, and he wants to draw a PVC trim on the edge. Is it possible to use the Follow Me tool to draw trim around the edge of that door?
Yes.
So the trick is the rounded corners, I suppose. It's all about where you started, though.
Yeah. So if I have something like this, so I'm assuming rounded corners. You mean like this? Is this a rounded corner on a door?
That's what I would mean.
Right. So if this is what you're talking about, then yeah, it's actually pretty simple. So what you could do is come into profile. So I'm coming to the edge like this and draw whatever it is. I don't know what the PVC corner looks like that you're putting on here, but I'm gonna make something up because that's kind of what I say I do around here. Let's just do it. Let's do a section of a circle. How about that? All right. So if I wanted to take that shape and trace it all the way around, all I'd have to do is select this surface right here, follow me, pick that shape, and there you go. So yeah, pretty fair. Hey, look, I made a sardine can.
Hey, look at that. That's an iPad.
Hey, it's also a little whiteboard.
Who keeps sardines in their iPad? This is weird.
Ew, that stinks.
But
Yeah, so follow me would be the tool, yes.
okay, great. You don't have any? Do you have any more videos coming out for SketchUp Web? That's one thing you can talk about in the future, right? You know the future of
Oh yeah,
videos.
I talk about what I do for sure. Sometimes, well, about 60% of it. I don't specifically. I mean, if you guys want to see more SketchUp for web, then that's definitely something I could do more of. Yeah, if there's specific things. That's right. I know some people who know about making those videos. So it's possible.
All right. What? That's something. You have Thea on your computer, so you use Thea sometimes, right? Oh wait, so Sid wanted to know how to increase the accuracy of measurements, as sometimes it shows a little tilde showing that it's just an approximation, not the accurate value.
In model info, check your units tab. So if you go to units, it's going to tell you here's what it's going to show, what kind of precision it's going to show. Well, hold on, there's two things there. So this is going to control what you'll actually show. So my background is primarily in building design, so I feel most comfortable showing 16ths. Some people who are engineers might want to go to 32nds or 64ths, or go to decimal inches or feet. Like I said, this is where I feel most comfortable, but you can change that. That's going to give you, as you're moving around, sort of dimensions down the lower right corner, rounded to those numbers. If you're going to draw a line and you're getting like this, so I'm drawing from some arbitrary point over to here, that's because that distance is actually measured accurately to 0.0001 inches. I don't know, a very small number. Like I said, this is just an arbitrary spot I click to. So when you get that little tilde, it's saying it's not actually it's not an actual perfect rounded amount. So if that happens, then you need to be conscious of what you're doing and why. Why am I drawing a line from some arbitrary point that I don't know? And why is the dimension that I'm measuring not evenly divisible by my units that I put in there? So anytime I get tilde, that's usually a sign that I need to check something.
Myron's curious about your toolbar setup. I'm not quite sure. So I don't know if he's on Mac or Windows, and I don't know how much you can elaborate, but you might at least look at how you
I
customize.
generally, yeah, that's something I'm always up for talking about. I try to keep my UI pretty clean. I do a lot of video. Well, you guys probably know. I do a lot of videos showing stuff, and I try not to have a real crowded screen. I do record just what's on my screen pretty often, so I try not to have a lot. I know some people, actually, in the old days, I used to run on Windows, and I used to do it for design work, and I would have so many buttons. I used to have just buttons across the top, buttons on the sides. I used to really like my toolbars, but now I try to keep it clean. I'm on Mac, so my options are the top toolbar here, which is primarily native tools plus a handful of extensions that I find myself using on a daily basis. Other than that, I will come up to View and turn on a single tool palette if I know I'm going to use it at the time. Usually that ends up tucked over here. I have most of the window tabs open over here on the right and nested together, but that's the UI I keep. I try to keep it pretty clean. And again, that's because I record and everything goes off of my laptop monitor. If I had multiple monitors, that might be a case where I have more than one thing turned on. I've actually seen some people who, I don't, maybe this is another grass is always greener thing, but I really like, do get a little bit jealous of the way Windows is set up, because the ability to create those custom toolbars and have those tab bars, I kind of wish I had that. That's pretty nice. So that's what I got going.
It's something.
It's what I got.
So I don't know if you're going to have a good example on this. We've run into this a couple of times. Brad on YouTube is wondering if you can talk about how you clean up drawings when you import lines of floor plans, like closing gaps and tolerances and what have you.
Yeah, there's a couple of extensions out there that will clean up that kind of stuff. Make Face is one that actually makes faces out of lines. That's kind of nice, because then you can kind of jump to push pulling shapes. I feel like there was an extension that detected endpoints that were near each other but not touching, but I don't remember what that was. May have been a TomTom thing, but I don't remember what that. I might just be talking about a proof of concept or something like that.
Or just a dream you had.
Yeah, sometimes. Oh, wouldn't that be nice if somebody made an extension of this? But one thing I will say is, personally, if I pull in like a floor plan, I usually don't use the lines. I will import as little geometry as possible. One of the big problems that I've always had when importing geometry from like a DXF or DWG is too much lines. You know, I don't need, if I'm pulling in and all I'm tracing is like the structural walls, then I don't need to see here's a line where the siding is, and then here's where the drip guard goes, and here's where the interior trim and all that stuff. I try to strip it down into just having the walls if possible, so I minimize the number of lines coming in. That's the first piece for importing. From there, I usually keep it grouped and locked and actually just draw my lines on top using it as a reference. I know not everybody does it that way, but I like doing it that way because that assures that the geometry that I'm putting in has been double checked by me, and that everything actually lines up and closes. So I mean, I was not trying to say, I don't know, I wasn't intentionally trying to duck anything, but I generally try not to get into the position where I have to worry about lines closing or that sort of as you continue through drawing your exterior dimensions. Oh, close
Yeah, so
opens
just
from
don't do that.
Smustard. I knew Dave would know.
Thanks, Dave. I don't see what Dave's saying because I'm still up here at
Okay.
12:55.
Close opens is the one that he was suggesting. I think that's the one I was thinking about that goes and connects it. Oh, and then TT Edge Tools has find edge gaps. So 2 options there.
Boom.
Nice.
Both in the extension warehouse, I presume.
Yeah.
Sebastian's asking a question that's not SketchUp related. They're thinking about moving to Colorado and want some towns to consider. You know some stuff about towns in Colorado, right?
Jody and I are probably biased, but we think Longmont's pretty cool.
It's it's aight.
I guess it depends on where you're going to be and how much money you want to spend.
Yeah, for me, it would depend on where the job is.
That's true. So the nice thing about Longmont, where we live, is it's real close to Boulder. It's less than an hour to Denver. It's right next to the foothills, but it's not in Denver, and it's not in Boulder, and it's not in the mountains.
And our internet is a municipal service and the fastest in, one of the fastest in the country.
It is super fast.
It's pretty nice.
That's why we're streaming from here.
Civil engineer. That's right. Spam Civil Engineer's asked it a couple of times, and he's even rephrased it to be maybe more specific. He's wanting to create construction scheduling or find a Gantt chart extension in SketchUp. I don't know that I know of an answer for either of those, unfortunately.
Are you looking for like 4D scheduling where you're going to align what's visible on the screen based on the steps in the Gantt chart? Is that what we're talking about? I don't know.
Well, we'll come back to that one when I get back down to it, I guess.
Sorry, Sebastian, the town name was Longmont, Longmont.
Boom. Perla is wondering if you recommend MacBook Pro for SketchUp, since you're using one there.
Yeah,
or thinking about getting a new one.
I'm on my 3rd or 4th MacBook Pro, and personally, I think they work great. But again, like I said, I don't do a whole lot of rendering. If rendering is something you do a lot of, people have had more, from what I've heard, Jody, you can chime in on this too, have had more success from like a heavy duty like gaming PC for rendering than what you would do with a Mac.
You definitely want a 3D accelerated video card, whether you're rendering or not. So like the 13-inch MacBook Pro is just using an Intel, and it's just a non-3D card, and that's not going to be ideal for SketchUp. But yeah, and either whether on Mac or Windows, as long as it's got a 3D accelerated card and 8 gig of RAM, you're probably okay. It'd be interesting to see what the actual system being used by Nick Sonder is, because I believe if there is somebody with a screaming machine, it's that guy.
Yeah, or Daniel Tall. I mean, whenever we see Daniel, he pulls out his notebook and it's just like it's like this thick. Boom, sets it down. But he does everything. I mean, he runs other CAD packages and Photoshop and rendering, and so he uses the highest end gaming machine he could find, and I know a couple guys who do that. But yeah, MacBook Pro has worked real well for me.
Myron wants to know how to get a Trimble hat. The answer is work at Trimble.
Yeah, unfortunately, I ended up this because I went to a trade show, and the other guys who were Trimble guys worked in the booth with me, had extra hats at the end of the show, and I got one. So that was it.
Yeah, my free hat, it says Total Boat. So
that was also free.
I guess depends on where you go. It was free. Man, we keep coming back to the TARDIS. It might be time to actually make a TARDIS.
Hey, I'm all for it. And maybe next week that'll be our Friday model.
So this is a little bit off the beaten path as far as questions, but Lady Frenzy Wicked Truth on Twitch is wondering if you use a chair with armrests or without. Like if you're sitting at a desk using SketchUp all day, are you an armrest boy?
I do use an armrest, and my armrests are just slightly above the height of the table. So if I put my arms perfectly out like that, I'm about an inch off the table. And that seems to be the best as far as reducing strain on the mouses that I use. So that's how I done, and I've played with that a little while. Actually, when we first started doing live streams, and I was sitting here, I haven't done production work for a while, you guys, so you have to forgive me. But sitting here and modeling for 3 hours, I was starting to get like tendonitis in my forearm from that. And I played, that was the first thing I played with, was my armrests and getting them to the right height. So I found that yes, an armrest lets me put most of the weight of my arm right here, and then it's just moving mostly my fingers and a little bit of forearm to move around, and everything comes off my elbows on the armrest. That was a new question. I have not had that. That was one I have not heard before.
It's always fun whenever you get new ones.
Yeah.
Peter is wondering what the easiest way to draw lines at specific angles without using a guide.
I generally, what I will do is I will draw a line along an axis, grab it and use rotate if I wanted that exactly 15 degrees. That's what I do personally.
JF's got a hypothetical. What can't SketchUp do that you would like it to do in the future?
Okay, me personally, what I'd like it to do?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what have I said in the past that I wish it could do? Because the thing.
Let me scroll back this sec. Maybe you did say.
No. No, I'm just wondering if there's things I've mentioned in the past that I want it to do. Because I mean, I like SketchUp for what it is, which is a very zippy 3D modeling tool. And I like that it works the way it does. I like that it's not super heavy with data or anything like that. So I actually like it being what it is. I guess if there's one thing, I mean, whenever I do organic kind of modeling, I end up relying on extensions. But see, even that, like, I use extensions because that's not the thing SketchUp does. So I don't know. That's a hard one. I would have to think about that. Like, where would I want? What changes would I want to SketchUp or have it be able to do? I don't know. I'll think about that.
All right. Okay. I'll hold you to that.
All right.
Okay. This is an interesting. So I think this was a response to how to bring in CAD like floor plan stuff and easily get a face. Is David L suggested drape CAD lines onto a plane with the sandbox tools. So I don't think I've ever heard anybody suggest doing I mean, I've seen it for footprints of buildings, but
yeah, that would work. That'd be interesting. Yeah. Go for it. Hey, Rodrigo.
On YouTube, wanting to know how to export a model in DWG. I think it's like literally just how to do it. So
I'm sorry, what's that?
It's how do you export it to DWG?
Oh,
pretty straightforward.
File, export, 3D model, and then just choose DWG.
Kai was asking if anybody's run SketchUp on a Cintiq or a Wacom 1 and how it runs on a touchy program. Kai, we did a video where Aaron was doing everything on his Cintiq. Wait, were you on a Cintiq?
Well, no, there was a Intuos. Oh, it was a tablet. Oh, yeah. It wasn't a visual.
Face, though, right?
Yeah. So it wasn't the Cintiq, but I did get a. I'm even trying to remember which one it was. Is that it? No, that's not it. Yeah, I mean, it worked pretty good. It's a very different workflow from working with a 3D mouse. But yeah, I mean, after I got done doing it for a couple hours, I was actually pretty comfortable. And I did do a video on a Cintiq. We had a loaner Cintiq that I used. And so there is a skill builder that I did with the Cintiq, but yeah, I mean, it works pretty good. You have to put some time and energy into getting your setup just right, and you have to come up with good habits about resting your stylus. I would say those are the big parts.
So you mentioned Rodrigo a second ago, but he looks like he had a question a little higher. Have you ever used SketchUp in 4K?
I haven't. Like I said, most of the stuff that I do happens right on my...
But isn't your monitor a 4K monitor? Don't you run it in like migraine-inducing resolutions?
Well, I have a separate monitor, but I usually run the actual modeling of SketchUp at about 1080 on my laptop. Because that's, I mean,
Okay, fine.
we don't, I don't output videos at 4K. I try to keep them as consumable as possible. So everything I do is still in 1080. I would like to try it though.
So Ellis actually commented on the whole computer, MacBook, all that stuff. They said they bought a $15,000 custom PC for rendering, which crashes constantly, and then they got a maxed out 2020 MacBook Pro, and that runs great rendering. So apparently, you don't have to have a desktop to do it.
Well, there you go. That's
Yeah.
that's good to hear. I mean, like I said, that was not my personal experience. I just haven't done enough rendering to really weigh in. I tend to stay back on those discussions. But that's good to know that that's worth having. That's
Well,
awesome.
and now software packages like I know V-Ray has like a whole cloud rendering solution. I don't know
Hmm.
how many different renderers out there do, but so now you can start to lean on the cloud.
Yeah.
Oh, Lady Frenzy was clarifying on the using armrests. She was wondering about 3D designing safety. Uh, I think probably ergonomics is kind of on a case by case, right? Most people have
Yeah.
different ergonomics that work for them.
Yeah. We're all different shapes and sizes, so.
When I first started at SketchUp, my boss Jim would actually work. He would sit in a stool at a regular height desk. And he had like this, those wrist guards like you have when you go rollerblading, and then he
Uh-huh.
would just be leaned all the way over, like
Ow.
just to watch him. I just don't understand how, but it was what worked for him. It's what he had to do. So, and
That's
I'll admit that
crazy. That's actually one thing I
I
miss
will.
from my desk at the office is I had a tall height desk, so I could stand up at it for part of the day. And I don't. I'm on a card table in the garage or a folding table in the garage, so I don't get to spend my
Shake
day
every
standing up.
time you lean on it.
Yeah. So
Uh, Sid is wanting to know how to record an animation and export it. It's probably a good time to talk about what an animation is in SketchUp because it's
that's right.
different.
So it depends on what you're hoping to do, because I will give you three answers. Answer one is scene animation. So if I create a scene right here, I create another scene right here, and then I create a third scene right here, I can come in here now and I can actually play this animation. Why do I always struggle with this? I swear, I don't. It's something that I do wrong. I don't know. Nobody else has this problem. I'm just so special. Okay, there it goes. Oh, it was just sitting. So I can actually set up that scene animation. In there, I can also go to animation settings and change how quick am I going to switch through there. Do I stop at each delay, or is that just something I have? So that animation right there, I could take that and export animation and export that scene animation. So that's thing number one I could do. All right, let's stop that. The second thing I could do is I can use an extension like Animator or Keyframe Animation to actually create things that move in SketchUp and save that. That's another option. Doing that will also let you export a video. The other thing is to do something like move through your model and do screen recordings. So that depends on what you have, and that's where I lean on 3D Mouse if I'm ever going to do anything like this. But you can actually just create screen recordings directly from inside SketchUp. That's an option also. So those would be the three options that I would see for a quick answer on how to export animations for SketchUp.
I feel like you're starting to master the art of the segue because the next question was going to be, "What's that thing in your left hand?"
Well,
I'm glad you asked.
so this is a 3D mouse. This allows me to move this puck right here and move my model in 3D space. So you can see, let me exaggerate my hand movements, but you can actually move around in 3D space using this puck rather than the scroll wheel here in SketchUp. It is not a requirement. You don't have to have one of these in order to 3D model, but it is a nice addition for two reasons. One is that puts all the zooming over here on this hand. So this hand with the standard mouse can be used to go, grab another tool, to right click. I can do this sort of thing while I'm moving around with this hand over here. The other thing is the standard zooming inside of SketchUp is not a problem for us if we're designing and we're driving, but sometimes it can be a little jarring for somebody watching. So I use it for presentations because I get this nice smooth animation after practicing with the 3D mouse. So that's what it is. That's how it works. That's why I use it.
Sweet. Fam Civil Engineer is wondering what the maximum height you can draw in SketchUp. I don't think SketchUp doesn't really have a hard code anything, but
yeah, there's not a limitation. Once you get to a certain size, you may start to see issues like flickering and stuff because your geometry is getting too far from the origin. But there's not a number that's specific, like if you're exactly 1.5 miles from the origin, that's going to start causing an issue. It really all comes down to the model. That's kind of a how long is a piece of string kind of question. It really depends more on the makeup, how you've actually created the model, much more than it matters the number.
Well, and then there's also the fact that you got different units.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, I made it to the bottom of the list. I just encouraged people to ask a new question, but do you know what the most recent Dummies book is? That one just popped up. That's a good question.
SketchUp for Dummies?
Yeah, I think was there 2019?
Aiden's last revision, which is 18 or 19. Yeah.
I got to double check because I think Becky was actually taking over the Dummies books after Aiden stopped working on them.
Yeah, because I think he did 1 or 2 more.
Huh. So
I don't know. I just remember
Amazon,
talking to him and he was complaining about how we doubled his work because we introduced new UI in the web version.
Yeah. Well, so looking at this, there's no longer a version on it. It's just SketchUp for Dummies. So.
Okay. Okay.
Now there's lots of questions that are back and forth.
All
Remember
right.
Put your @SketchUp in there. Manos was wondering how many times we've answered the question about the 3D mouse. Maybe we should have like a little
all of
little
them
whiteboard. Yeah.
Yeah, you just need a like text that you could just copy in every time, like, or a hotkey text editor or whatever that is that suffers.
So this wasn't a question, but this is a great idea. Jealous Elephant said, why not make something real world practical in the next live model, like a chicken coop or a raised garden bed? And that way it'll inspire people to get out and do stuff, make some stuff.
Sure. I'm not opposed to that at all.
Have you ever done any, like, make this thing kind of?
Well, we did. We framed an entire shed,
okay,
like piece by piece, every single piece. So we've done that. I'm sure there's other things we've done. A deck. We've built a deck. Yeah, so we've done stuff like that a couple of times. It's fun. That's good stuff.
And he had another question: does SketchUp support alpha channel textures with the PNG format? That's the only way to do invisible, right? Or to do transparency.
Right. PNGs.
That's what he means with that.
Yeah, if that's what you're asking, you can import transparencies and PNGs and use them. It's the only format that will support transparency.
Is there a method for exporting a PDF with layers from layout on a Mac? He knows it's possible on Windows.
With layers? I don't know.
Well, so on Windows, I would only assume you could do it if you actually have a different PDF export, because Windows does not have native PDF export support.
So you're exporting imagery with layers? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that on Mac, you've got actual vector data available in your PDF export, but not on Windows.
Oh, it says, I mean PSD with wait, hold
Oh,
up. Oh no, that was relation to the
no.
transparency alpha channel.
Ah, yeah, no SketchUp. Well, does the Mac version
PS,
support PSD? I
no.
don't remember. Chris Reagan says he has a torus shape. He's trying to apply a freehand gear pattern around. He's having trouble rotating the pattern.
So in an image, is that what we're saying? When we say pattern?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe he can clarify. Do you mean applying a texture to a torus?
If so, that is where you're going to want to use projected textures. So if I come here, I draw a circle this way, and then so if I have something like this and I want to put a texture on it, if I just come in and, oh hey, I'll use my same texture from work. I just apply it, I'm going to get that mess. Not going to work. So what I'm going to want to do instead is apply that to a surface, right click on that surface, make it a projected texture, and then I can apply that texture to whatever shape I want, in this case that torus. So I know it's a weird example, but this is the only image I got right now.
It's the only closest thing you have to a gear.
That's right.
Which is to say, you don't have a gear.
I don't have a gear. Here, let me change my background color to something that'll make that stand out just ever so a little bit more. There we go. You can see that texture is carrying through there.
Cecilia is wondering how you make a relief on a figure.
Like, whew, what a relief.
Boy.
I don't know that I understand your question.
Well, so I would probably not try and do it on a figure so much as try and do it on a, oh, that's fun.
I like this. I'm just going to do this for the next 20 minutes. You guys are good with that?
Just doing it on 2D. Like if you wanted to carve something out of, say if you were going to take that iPad there and have a shape of a horse carved into it.
It depends. If you're going to go for, we'll just use this specifically about that. So if I was going to come in and create a shape, I'm going to draw something super simple. But let's say I wanted to do a tree, and this is my tree shape. If my relief was just a simple 2D or 3D relief, I could do something like just pull that down and get that. If I was looking for a more complex, where I want to go in and actually have like a 3D handprint or something like that, then I would import that shape that I want to create the relief from as a solid and subtract it from the piece that I want to pull it out of. So if it's a simple just 2D push-pull, then that's easy. If you want to actually create multiple levels of depth from that relief, then I would subtract it using solid tools.
Oh man, I accidentally scrolled up. Got all confused there. There it is. Julko is wondering about drawing or how you draw shapes on curved surfaces. Same spirit, I suppose.
Again,
this is sort of like the tennis ball question earlier.
Yeah, I would look at the extension tools on surface, because it'll actually let you draw lines, and it will like align your drawing normal to the surface. So it'll actually, your little pencil will actually move around like that and snap to the surfaces. So it actually uses the hidden geometry. So it actually uses this geometry right here as you start drawing along. So basically what it does is, as I'm drawing a line, it'll jump to snap to that next surface, but you don't have to do it in piece by piece like I'm doing it. You would actually, from this view, just start drawing a line, and it'll automatically figure out for you where that has to go. So tools on surfaces is really cool for doing that. If it's a projected surface or intersection like we did with this hole, then that's where, again, I would create solids and use solid tools to intersect and break that geometry.
So Antonio is asking on YouTube. This is, I mean, you probably can't dig specifically into it, but he said he's new to SketchUp and he's giving it a try. When he opens the extension manager, he gets an error message, and then it's a JavaScript error message, which sounds like either there's something wrong with his copy. So he may try uninstalling, reinstalling, make sure he's got the latest version of SketchUp.
Yeah.
Pro license, make sure to buy the license.
You have to be logged into your local version in order to get on the warehouse too, right?
I think you do now, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So right up here in the upper right corner is your information. So you want to make sure that you're signed in. So make sure you're signed in first before you try to go warehouse too, because that might be it. I would say if you're having any kind of problems where any kind of script or specific thing is coming up, go to the forum, forums.sketchup.com, post the exact message that you're getting, and that's going to be the quickest and easiest way to get a fix. It's most likely something to do with you being not logged in or installation corrupt or something like that. So it's probably pretty simple, but that exact message on the forum is probably your best solution.
So Andy went and tested to see how big an object he could make, and he said things get a bit weird over 3 million meters, or 300 million meters. So that's good to know.
That's a healthy distance, I think. I don't know. I don't know how big a meter is, so I'd have to trust that that's big. Sounds big.
So Johnny can he use or set the thumb buttons of his mouse for the select tool, or for example, to forget or come back from a command to the select tool, I suppose, as opposed to just hitting escape?
Yeah, so I mean, I have a thumb button and I mapped it to select. So if I'm in something like move and I just tap down on the thumb button, it goes back to select because it's the most common tool that I go back to. So the way that programmable mouse buttons work is most of the time you can just set it to a keyboard command. So I just mapped my extra buttons on my mouse to specific keyboard commands. So it doesn't even know what SketchUp or any other software is doing with it. It just knows that while I'm in SketchUp, if I tap the thumb button, push a space command to the computer. So yeah, that is absolutely how I have it set up.
I presume that's the same way with the 3D mouse too then.
Yeah, exactly the same thing. So the programmable buttons on the 3D mouse, they're just mapped. The 3D mouse has some knowledge of SketchUp, so you can actually map some of these to specific SketchUp commands, but it doesn't have all of them. And it doesn't go deep with stuff like paste in place or, extensions. So I have a vertex tool shortcut on here, but it doesn't know what that is. So most of my shortcut keys are just keyboard shortcuts. I hit V, it activates vertex tools, but it only knows that to send a V over to the computer.
Looks like we're all caught up again.
Well, all right. Yeah, how about that?
Andy keeps trying to break it by going further and further, or farther and farther.
How big is 300 million meters, you guys? How big is that?
900 million feet is what Andy just said.
Oh, 900 million feet. 186,000 miles.
3.3.
Yeah, that's big.
Julka said once they draw a leaf, how can they curve it or curve the edges of it?
So there's a couple things you could do. You can manually do something like that. So if I come in here, I'm going to draw a fairly cheesy leaf, but no but, that's just what I'm doing. I'm going to take that, I just drew an arc.
Period.
That's right. I'm going to rotate a copy of it. It's kind of like an aspen leaf, We're in Colorado, aspens or whatever. So here's my leaf.
No, we're in Longmont. We're not in Aspen.
Oh. Sorry, I apologize.
Oh.
Oops,
So Colin made a statement, and apparently he wants me to say his statement. He made a submission for the model house. I think that's what he said. He posted a challenge model in the forum.
Oh.
Let's go see what he's talking about.
All right, so here's my cheesy leaf shape. So depending on what I want to do, I could come in if I'm really hung up on the idea of using native tools, and I wanted to kind of get a little bit of a curve here. I could break this thing, and I could grab these pieces, and I could, give it a little bit of a bend here, and then I could give it a little bit of a bend here, and I could give it a little bit of a bend here to kind of, and I did that pretty broad, but then I could come back in here, option, and erase these lines and get kind of a curve there. What I would suggest instead is checking out the free extension Fredo Scale. You have to go to Sketchucation to get it, but Fredo Scale will let you we'll let you take this, make it a group, and then if I go into Fredo Scale, I have this option of radial bending. And the reason this is cool because what I can do is say, okay, take this whole shape and go ahead and just give it a little bit of a bend like that. Look at that. And then I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to go into Fredo Scale again, radial bending again, and I'm going to bend it this way. So I can make, there's my leaf now, quite a bit quicker and easier than segmenting and trying to bend it. But yeah, I would check out, if you're trying to take a leaf and make it, bend it, I would totally check out Fredo Scale. One word there, where this was one face before, if I look at my hidden geometry, I'll see now that this is a lot more than one face. So when I select it, it's 1,200 entities between faces and lines. So it will make a heavy model real quick, but if you keep this as a component, it can help if you have multiple copies of it. So that's what I would take a look into.
Okay, so Colin posted this in the forum. I don't remember what their initial context is, but so on the forum he said, had to do this recently. How would I easily move the square with the texture on the ground to snap a line to the square frame floating in the air? He did get it down to, okay, so I think he's challenging you to see if you can do this. So you need to go over to the forum, download his rotate challenge, Skip.
Okay, I remember you talking about this a while ago, but I don't remember what the solution was.
So he worked it out.
Okay.
Or now he's challenging you to do it. Using the move on the corners won't work. The texture would move. Doing the move and resetting the texture won't work. The square is part of a bigger picture. I don't know what's going on right now, so hopefully you will explain this.
I don't understand either. Okay, so you want to get this to here without resetting the texture? Is that what he's saying? I'll just hit make unique texture and I can move this wherever I want, right?
It's a how-to question. How to easily move the square on the ground to snap to the frame in the air. Yeah, he's feeding tips in here. It's part of a larger texture, so make unique won't work.
It worked okay for me. Wait,
wants to know how to easily move the square on the ground to snap to the frame in the air. Okay, we'll see if he. What
is not right? Because now my texture snapped to that frame and it has the same texture it had before.
I think so. Maybe. Oh, so he said he was hoping there was an easier way.
Oh, well, there is. I'm not very good at using it, but in the JHS PowerBar, there is an align feature. So referring to an extension again, I don't really. I'll turn it on. I'll try it because we all love that. How that all turns out. I remember which one it is, but there is an align tool in the PowerBar. Is this it? And I'll grab this. Shoot, I don't remember how to use it. But is that it? No, is that not it? I can't remember what these little icons do.
I hate how tiny they are.
Yeah. Is it this one? Yeah, I think this is it. If I can slide this right here, and then I think with this align, I can say, oops,
Tricky 2K is agreeing with your assessment.
there we go.
That
There,
it's the
there,
JHS one.
there. Whoops. All right. Click here to here. No. So I'm gonna move it so it connects at the corner, and then I choose rotate from here, put this point here, and this point here. So it's a couple clicks, but I don't have to do rotate in all 3 axes. I can just use 2 clicks from and to, so 4 clicks, rather than click, 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 click. So I had 9 to do manually using the rotate tool, 3 axes. With the 3D rotate or 3D align, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I saved 4 clicks that way.
Nice.
It's a bit easier.
You can go home early. You could leave work early
That's right.
if you get that process mastered.
Hey, if you got to do it 500 times too, that adds up. I don't know why you'd have to do that 5 times. But yeah, check out JHS PowerBar. It is a cool tool. It's a cool set of tools. It's a lot of tools. There's a lot of stuff here. But there's some gems in there for sure. And about half of them are kind of obscure things like that, where it's going to be big time savers if you know they're there. But yeah, that's a good one. Good question. Thank you, Colin.
George is wondering if you use the camera or object mode on your 3D mouse.
I don't. I use object. So everything on my 3D mouse is as if I had that at scale and I was spinning it around in my hand. So if I turn this direction, the model turns this direction. If I move up, it moves up. If I move down, it moves down. So everything's relative to object mode. Just so you guys, anybody who doesn't understand that question, I do have the ability to go camera or helicopter mode, which means basically with the 3D mouse, I'm grabbing the camera in 3D space and moving it around, so the controls are the opposite. So if I move this way, the effect is the model moving this way. So I do everything in object because I think it's because I play video games. I don't know that that's it or not, but that just made sense to my brain to move this way. I don't know. I can't explain it. That's what I use. Just leave it there.
That's what you do. You do you. Manos asked this a little while back, and I don't know if there's a best, but he was wondering maybe how you go about choosing models from the warehouse. Do you have like particular criteria that you always observe when you're doing your searches?
Yeah, absolutely. So my biggest rule for 3D Warehouse is I almost never, unless I'm in some kind of Q&A thing like this where I'm just doing stuff quickly, but I very rarely will download models directly into my working model. Almost always I just download them and open them up to check them out. I just too many times where I've downloaded a model that's huge and I'm already working in a big working model and it locks up my computer or something like that. So I always download it first. I always download and examine it first before I pull it into my working model also. I look for hidden geometry. I look for excessive layers, bunch of, make sure stuff has been purged and it's clean before I pull it in. A lot of times with models, I'll go in and actually manually snip out a portion of it to import and not pull the whole thing that was posted. Having said that, I do tend to, when I pull up a search criteria, so I want to look for, leather couch, I type in leather couch, and it gives me 1,000+ solutions. I'll start looking through it and look for one that looks like what I want. Generally speaking, I'll have 3 or 4 that, I like the thumbnail of these ones, and then that's when I'll start comparing like file size. Because what I generally stay away from, I don't know if you guys are this way too, but as soon as I see the one that I'm like, that's just a rendered image, that's not a SketchUp file, I just scroll right past that. Because my experience is get this nice rendered image, and then I know that in the SketchUp file, that means I have an image that the camera was centered on, but the actual file itself is back here somewhere, and I have to do cleanup, right? So I tend to stay away from those. But no, that's a couple of my thoughts on using 3D Warehouse. There's not like a specific size where I'm like, oh, it has to be 20,000 polygons or under, or anything like that. I'll just generally try to balance the best look of the thing versus the file size. That's kind of where I go.
Gotta pee. It's a great username. Wants to know how you decide on the order of building an object.
Generally speaking, and I would recommend coming back on a Wednesday, because on Wednesdays we take real 3D geometry and we start modeling it. Generally speaking, I will work from the biggest part and start working my way down. A lot of times, if I'm working off of a structure or something like that, I'll start on the ground and work my way up. I don't know if that's because of experience with building design, but that makes sense logically to my brain to start at the base, which is usually the biggest piece, and just work my way up a structure. But other than that, yeah, it's usually like the biggest. Usually if I look at something, I want to model it, there's like a piece that is like the solid piece that everything else attaches to, or something like that. So I'll try to work with the solid geometry and work my way out to details, if that makes sense. But yeah, come by on Wednesday and I'll walk through step by step the process of designing some real world things. I don't even know what it'll be yet.
Okay, that was going to be the next question was, what's going on Wednesday and Friday? Do we know yet?
I'm picking my Friday thing tomorrow. So I honestly don't even know yet.
Okay.
We'll find out.
Sebastian, throwing out a question for both of us, is favorite all-time video game? Since you pointed out that you play video games. All-time is so tricky.
That's hard, yeah.
That's almost 50 years of video games to try and process.
I would say in the last decade, the new Legends of Zelda game is pretty high up there.
Oh yeah, that is nice.
Got a lot of joy out of that.
As soon as I say Zelda, then I also like Horizon on PlayStation, which you don't have, so you know. But it's kind of the same thing with fancier art. Oh, Andy likes Skyrim.
I did like Skyrim. I played Skyrim quite a bit.
Skyrim is one of those where
it was too big for my brain.
I tend to, yeah, I get overwhelmed. Zelda is borderline too big for me.
It is, but Zelda does a good job of like focusing you. Like, don't worry about everything. Just do this. And Skyrim, there's just so much to do. I had a hard time. I did play it though.
George was asking about the low poly human session. That was
last Friday.
That was last Friday, right?
Yep. We just did it. Video is available on YouTube and Facebook though. I did want to
go ahead.
Go ahead if yours is relative to what we're actually talking about. No, it's not. It's not relative. I do want to jump back. Nathaniel was asking about layers. Layers confuse him. We've had a lot of people who are confused about the term layers because SketchUp doesn't actually have layers. So traditionally, layers were like pieces of paper where here's layer 0, here's layer 1, here's layer 2, here's layer 3. SketchUp's a 3D modeling tool, so there is no layering or putting things one on top of another. It's one of the reasons we renamed it in 2020 to tags. Really, what layers are visibility tags. So if I take something and I put it onto a new layer or tag, I'm going to take this entity right here and put it on that new tag. This is one of the two things that it does. By turning that tag on and off, it shows visibility. So think of it less as layers and more as being a visibility tag. The other thing that it does is it gives you the ability to change your line style. So anything that's on that tag will get that same line style. Other than that though, it shouldn't be, don't think of it as layers, because the biggest thing that confuses people is how do you justify layering in a 3D system? Because there's really, like in Photoshop, it makes sense, right? So I'm gonna draw my background, and then the house is gonna go on that, and the guy standing in front of the house is gonna go in front of that. That's layers. That doesn't exist in 3D space. In 3D space, you just position the things in 3D space so that they're in front of each other from a camera point of view. So Hopefully that helps a little
And I
bit, but
think
that's kind of what layers tags are.
I I think the issue with SketchUp layers is that we would have a lot of people that come from like a graphic design background,
Hmm.
so they come in with Photoshop and Illustrator perspectives on layers, and then we have a bunch of people that are architects and they have a different view. And layers is just such a ambiguous term when you kind of look at the gamut of possible
Hmm.
uses.
Oh,
Uh,
I just gotta say it real quick. Nothing to do with anything we're talking about. Rodrigo, I loved Morrowind. I played that for a long time. Yes, good call.
I like so yeah. So
Sorry.
Morrowind was too big, but it was yeah. I enjoyed it. I think more than Skyrim
I think so too.
for whatever reason. Although it wasn't long, both in Skyrim and Morrowind, before I turned on cheats and got the ability to fly or do whatever. I'm a cheater. I'll admit it.
And Sebastian points out, ogres have layers. SketchUp has tags. That's right. Thank you.
Oh, cool. Looks like that helped Nathaniel.
Oh, good.
That was a
Awesome.
good topic. Uh,
I know
Nora's asking about making a
Sid asked about section plane colors. If you do make a section plane and the default is this heavy black, all you have to do is go into your styles. So go to styles and you're gonna click this last box, which is edit, and there you have your section fill, both the fill color, the fill outline color, and then the fill line weight. All of that's controlled as part of your styles in that last box. Go from select to edit, click on that last box, which is again edit, and you can change your section fill information. You can even turn it off if you want. You can toggle that on and off. So it does. A couple questions came up there. We still don't have hatching. If you need to put hatching into those, then that's when you want to look at something like Scalp for SketchUp, and that will actually let you pick a pattern and put hatching in, as opposed to the solid colors that we can do with sections.
wait. What's so funny? Oh, the fact that you love Morrowind.
Yeah, I was sorry. I was cracking up on that.
That's okay.
Yeah, and then you were saying,
That's kind of free for all now.
all right,
Let's grab them. If you see it, grab it.
all right.
Oh, Basecamp. We don't really have anything to talk about with Basecamp.
I'm sorry. I'm really hoping that in the next week or so we can have some sort of an official update, but still nothing. I'm sorry. I really want to. I love talking about Basecamp, and the fact that we still don't know what's going on or what we can talk about is killing me. Hopefully
Yeah.
soon.
I mean, you can probably make assumptions about what will happen, but the real question is, how are we going to pivot based on the COVID-19 large gathering stuff?
Yeah.
Seems like Canada's pretty responsible with what they're allowing large groups to do, and since this is going to be in Vancouver, there's a whole lot of moving parts between now and September.
Yeah. Got some
We'll
stuff to
grab
work
that.
through for sure.
Vaughn's asking about your 3D mouse. I'm going to go dig up the low poly video for George real quick.
Yep. This is, well, one more time. This is a 3D mouse from 3D Connection. It's called the Space Mouse Enterprise, and it just takes control of that moving in 3D, makes it quicker, easier, a little bit smoother, that sort of thing. Tips to make a walkthrough video. Here's what I'll say for a walkthrough video. The biggest tip I can give is do as many scenes as you need to. If it takes 30 scenes to create your video, then make 30 scenes. But every step along the way, take control of where that camera's facing. So it might be, you might have an easy one where you start at the bottom of the stairs and then you walk up the stairs into the top, and that's all one scene. But if you're gonna walk around a corner and you wanna control, I wanna look here, 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 make each of those a scene if you need to. What SketchUp does is when it goes from one scene to another, it has kind of this soft loop that it goes on. So rather than going from here directly to here, it's gonna go here and it's gonna kind of go like this. It's not bad if you know what it's doing, But if you are really trying to lock down and control that, then don't just go from here to here and let it take you on this swooping path. Go here, then go to here, and then go to here to actually align your view perfectly. So that's the biggest thing I would recommend is scenes. The issue with that, of course, comes that once you get too many scenes, it can start to get unwieldy. And I've actually had people say that what they've done is they put so many scenes in, they did a save as and made a copy so they could put a whole nother set of scenes and then ended up creating multiple videos that they stitched together. So that might be it, but yeah, lots of scenes. Take control of that camera.
Well, so Lawrence had a question, but also there was a good one to kind of go over for Marconi was asking about asking why you should apply color to raw geometry, not to the group.
Oh man, I'm trying to remember. There's something that it does. One of the biggest problems is, so if I make this, or here we have a group here, right? So if I color this group and I come in here into this, when I bring up that face, look what it says. It says that it's white right now. So if I want to apply a different color to it, I can do that, but it still thinks inside here that it's a different color. That's because that color is applied to the outside of the group, and unfortunately, that can just get messy, I guess. It doesn't specifically break your model. It's not going to like start throwing up colors or getting rid of colors. It's just a little bit messy. So I think the term we use is the most correct way to do it is to go into the container, select the geometry you want to color, and then put colors on that instead, because that's gonna work better. But hey, you do your thing if you want. I think we say that that's the most correct way to do it is to actually apply to the surfaces. It's certainly the easiest way to, or most organized way to keep track of what colors are on your model. Something like that.
Good answer. Good answer. Good answer. Oh man, I accidentally scrolled away from it. There was a good question here about.
Sid had a question. Was that the one about using the same model off a drive?
No.
Oh.
You can answer that while I try and find where.
Yeah, don't do that.
Went.
If you're working off of a remote drive, there's a good chance that one of you is going to be writing to that drive and the rest of you are going to lose your work. Always work off of local copies of your software off of your drive on your computer, of your model, excuse me. Don't work off of remote drives, because the other thing is, as it disconnects, if you disconnect from that, it can cause real problems. If you do want to work collaboratively, you might want to check into Trimble Connect, which is a good way to share files. But the big thing is work inside of components. So if I take this, say this component is a piece of my bigger drawing, I can actually take this component, save as to export it, pass that component over to Jody. Jody could go and make his changes, give it back to me, and then once I have that, I can re-import and replace this version of the component with the version that Jody does. So we've seen people do things like chop their houses into separate pieces or take the interior, make it a component, work off of it that way. But yeah, SketchUp does not like when you work off of remote drives, and it can cause to pretty catastrophically painful situations. So yeah, don't do that.
It's not a pretty picture. I don't like doing it.
No, it's bad stuff.
Well, I can't find it, but so the question was, how do section cuts work in nested groups and components?
Let's look.
Which is it's a good question.
It
I
is.
just don't remember who said it.
So here I have two components. So I'm going to take those two components and put them into another group. So now I have one group here. In that one group, I have two other components. If I take a highest level section plane like this, and I move it so it cuts into that geometry, like that, if I go into, so I can only have one active section plane, right? I can't, so if I create another section plane, and it's not closing because I actually have open geometry. This isn't actually closed. If I come in here and create another section plane that's coming a different direction, I can only cut with one of these at a time, right? So I have to activate one of the two. If I want to have two of them actually visible, what I can do is have one on one level and then come into a group and create another section plane inside here. And I can move that in like that. And now I can have overlapping section plane cuts. I could even go in another level even deeper, because I could come into this one and add another section plane to the point that I have, I guess, nothing left to cut. So there's my section plane now, depending where I go into, where that is that geometry being cut from 3 different sides. So that's how it works. It will allow you to stack those section views up if I cut that way.
Nice, nice. You can do some fun stuff with section planes. I've seen some really cool animations by allowing them to move between.
Oh yeah, section plane animations are a lot of fun too. That's good stuff.
I'm not seeing any more questions coming in, although it's 2 o'clock. So
that is true. It's time to wind down. I appreciate you guys respecting that.
Trickling down.
I'm gonna come in here and get rid of these so I can still make my thumbnail image of my pile of models laying on the floor.
So do you always have bright green as your cutting plane there? Like whenever?
Oh no,
that was just. You do that just for the video?
That was just a color I picked on the fly there. Awesome. Well, hey, that's not a bad set of questions for 2 hours. I appreciate that.
Maybe it's worth mentioning that we're going to try and do a bigger Ask Me Anything on Reddit on the 28th.
Yeah, we're waiting on the official thumbs up, but that is our goal, is to do with a bigger group than just Jody and I too. Have a group of SketchUp type people who can come answer questions. Keep an eye on our social channels. Watch everywhere or anywhere, wherever you watch, and we'll put an official notification when we know that we have that date and time locked down.
Yep.
But that should be fun.
I see it. It's pending.
Yeah.
But I'm optimistic it's going to happen.
Yeah. I don't know a whole lot of. It's my first official Reddit Ask Me Anything, so I'm looking forward to it. Jody's. It's like, oh yeah, I've done that before. Whatever.
Sure.
All right, so we'll come back on Wednesday. We will model something. I will have plans. I'll upload some plans of something Monday or Wednesday morning, and you guys come along. We'll model along. You can download and model with me, and then we'll have another thing on Friday. But Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right around the same time as this thing, we will be doing something. So please come back, hang out with us. If it wasn't for you guys, it would just be me and Jody on a call modeling stuff for each other, and that's far less fun.
A lot of dead air.
Yeah.
We're grunting at each other.
We don't have anything to talk about anymore.
Well, we can talk about Morrowind now. I have to remember.
That's right. Apparently so.
How to play it though.
Yeah.
It's been a minute.
You have to figure out how to get that on the most recent thing. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you coming by. Hopefully that helped you out and answered some questions. And we will see you all next time.
See you guys.